Are you ready to stop riding the emotional elevator of life? Are you ready to learn how to elevate your emotions that keep you psychologically traumatized or in an addictive behavior? You are in the right place. Here is your host, Sandee Byrd, trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach of the Emotional Elevator Show.
Well, welcome everyone. Of course, you're joining me here on Inspired Choices Network. So if you are on any other platform listening to me over here on Inspired Choices, sign up in the chat room. Let's have some dialogues going on. But of course, yes, you are listening to me, Sandee Byrd, on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. And tonight's topic kind of follows behind imposter syndrome. So if you didn't listen to last week was on imposter syndrome. And tonight is the 3 A's. And it is acceptance, approval, and avoidance. And the three of those have played a big part in my life. And I see that's a lot of people's main focus when coaching them, even in now that I'm stepping more into also corporate America, coaching people using the techniques of laughter yoga and Lego series play, because I'm a coach of laughter yoga. I'm a laughter yoga leader, and I also do Lego series play, which is basically putting Legos into coaching practice as to using your hands and not necessarily the thought process to answer things by giving you cues. So that's a little bit about the coaching, but with the acceptance, approval, and avoidance, that is a big topic for many people when I'm coaching them. And like I said, last week was imposter syndrome, and this kind of does. I feel like now a lot of my topics kind of lead into each other as you start working on yourself. And that's what tonight is about, because this journey is all about working on these big topics. I've had topics, and you should go back and listen to, on codependency and on addiction and on cold mother syndrome, and last week imposter syndrome and acceptance. And tonight I'm going to I want to make sure like these definitions are really drawn into you, because accept is consent to receive, believed to recognize as valid or correct. That is what accept is. Acceptance is the action or process of being received as adequate or suitable. Consenting to receive or undertake something offered is acceptance. So a lot of times, and I'm playing around with this magic wand, a lot of times in life, we expect acceptance, and yet we're not accepting. And does that make sense to you? Because we do. We consent to receive sometimes, or sometimes we don't. Well, that's unacceptable. Well, why is it unacceptable? I remember raising my kids and being raised as a kid growing up. That was a big thing that we said. That's unacceptable. I'm not going to accept that. And that's how we kind of ended things. Sorry, I think I have a hair. We kind of said things to our children, or was said to us. That's unacceptable. And we don't sometimes dive into, why is that unacceptable? Or why is that behavior unacceptable? Because now that I look back as an adult and as a parent, as a coach, that sometimes when we say, well, that's unacceptable, and we don't give a reasoning behind it, they just think anything and everything they do is unacceptable. And I've been there. And that's what this topic of acceptance is because we're basically saying that is unsuitable. And why is it unsuitable? Do you ever wonder the kid that's throwing the temper tantrum in the store, and we're like, "Ugh, that is so unacceptable." Do we ever think why? When it's clearly, and this is a big thing, when it's clearly a physical disability, we're accepting of it. Oh, well, they can't help it. But when a child throws a temper tantrum, or even an adult is arguing with their spouse or anything like that, We find it unacceptable, but we don't know the reasoning behind it. And it's the same thing with us as adults. We expect acceptance. We expect acceptance. And why is that? Why do we always yearn from acceptance from other people? Why? Why do we do things for acceptance? Why do we feel like, oh, yeah, let me do that so I'll be accepted? Let me join this club so I'll be accepted. Why? Why do we put that on ourselves? Can it be because when we were a child, that was unacceptable? And now we feel our whole life like we are fighting to be accepted? Because what is it that we're offering? Because if you think about acceptance, the action or process, and I am looking down again, the action or process of being received as adequate or suitable. Why are we as we are? Sometimes feel we are not acceptable. So we go outside of ourselves for acceptance. Why is that? Why do we feel we need to be, here's a big word, validated? Validated outside of ourselves. We want to always be accepted because we're not accepting ourselves. And that's why this is such a big topic. And I know coaching, one of the questions usually is, so why do you feel you're not accepted? Why do you want to be accepted? What would it look like if you were accepted? What would it feel like to feel accepted? That is something in coaching I have heard myself from my coach, even in therapy. And I say it in coaching when they say, I just want to be accepted. Well, what does that feel? How does that feel? What does that look like? And what are you trying to be accepted for? So think about that. Why are we always, always looking outside of ourselves to be received as adequate or suitable to be offered? We are offering ourselves. What are we offering of ourselves? So that's what acceptance is. And what I want everyone who's joining me tonight or listening to me in the future or whatever, reach out to me because I would really, really enjoy a conversation around this. And I'm going to even do a special offer at the end of this that if you reach out to me from this, I'm going to gift you a free coaching session. I'm going to gift you a coaching. Now I'm stumbling on my words. I'm going to gift you a coaching session if acceptance or approval or avoidance relates to you. It is a 1 hour gifted coaching session because this is a big, big topic. When you've dealt with addiction, when you've dealt with trauma, when you have cold mother syndrome, or my kid's going to accept me? Are they going to accept me now? Now that I see the light, are my kids going to accept me? Did they even accept me before? Like, think about this. How many of you play that through your head? Oh gosh, are they going to accept me? Even when we go for jobs, think about that. We wonder, well, are they going to hire me? You're basically asking yourself, are they going to accept me? Are they going to accept my offer? We question our acceptance. We question our acceptance in our life. We question our acceptance in our financial standing. We question our acceptance in our marriages. We question our acceptance as parents. We question our acceptance as friends. We question our acceptance in jobs. Because what is it that we're not accepting within ourselves? Think about how different your life would be, how it would feel, how it would look if you decided just to accept yourself for who you are. So, kind of a backstory of my day today. I had a lot going on, a lot going on. And then I had a Zoom call before this. And my spouse, I always like to enjoy dinner with him on Wednesdays before this podcast. And I asked him, and he was right around the corner, and he ended up not being. He just said, I was driving, so I didn't text, I just spoke. So I right away was like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to take a shower. Oh my gosh. Wow. I was questioning myself, my acceptance to you, if you're watching me or listening to me, that would you accept the message just because I didn't take a shower before I came on here? And that is what acceptance is. Is my message going to change because maybe I do smell a little bit like a wet dog, as I said earlier before producing the show? But why am I so pondering if you're going to accept me because of something I didn't do? So that is what acceptance is. And how many times in your life do you feel unaccepted, unacceptable, unaccepted? How many times have you walked? And the funny thing with acceptance is, have you ever gone out with maybe friends of friends and you're like, they didn't do anything for me? And then you wonder, well, did they accept me? Because the next time you're not invited, oh gosh, I wasn't accepted. What did I do? We question ourselves with our acceptance. Why is that? Why don't we just, you know what? That's not my cup of tea. It's okay. Because we don't accept in our life things that we won't even budge on. Like, I was talking about something with someone and they were like, so how about if we did this retreat and, because we're going after everybody's fears, and this is someone who wants to retreat with me, and let's just challenge everybody's fears. So let's get everybody who doesn't ever want to skydive and get them together and we'll skydive. I don't want to skydive. I was like, I'm good. No, that's not accepting to me. That's not how I want to challenge myself. But what if I was like, oh gosh, well, if I don't agree to do that with her, might she not want to do a retreat with me? So, oh my gosh, I might have to jump out of an airplane to be accepted with somebody in that form. No, 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 I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to receive your offer. I don't want to receive your offer. That's something I just don't want to do, is do something that is unacceptable to me. So that's what acceptance is. And how many times have you heard, said, done that's unacceptable and don't give an explanation? And how many times, if you're a mother listening, have you said to your own child, that's unacceptable, and not explain to them why? And you can now understand why maybe they're questioning acceptance, because it was probably said to you and wasn't explained. And so you question acceptance. We've all, because I don't think anyone listening to me is younger than high school, even middle school. Think about all the times you went, you wanted to be accepted. And when you weren't accepted, that made you feel unworthy, unvalued because you weren't accepted. How about if you just weren't accepted? It was because maybe it was the brown haired club and you were blonde. We all should be accepted for who we are, what we are, how we are. I definitely fully 100 believe in equality and everyone should be accepted. And that's why this topic is a big thing in my family life. Because if you've listened to a past one also on raising multicultural children, I never realized that they would not be accepted. I never realized when I had my children that they would not be accepted by family, by friends. And it weighed heavily on me because now at this point, people who accepted me no longer accepted me. Did I change? I didn't change at all. I felt I became more compassionate, more empathetic, more open, seeing the world in openly and how we need to change things and embrace things in life. And so when we think about acceptance, think about even that part of acceptance. Who don't you accept? Why don't you accept them? And why is it you don't accept them? And if you feel a level of, I don't ever feel like I'm accepted anywhere I go, let's find out why together. Because that is a big thing of life, is feeling accepted. Because sometimes when we don't feel accepted on the outside, what do we do internally? We don't feel accepted on the inside. And that's when we have those feelings of self-doubt, lack of self-worth, lack of self-value. And we question ourselves, especially when we're kids, especially when we're growing up. And well, why am I not accepted? I mean, think about, hate to go down memory lane sometimes. No, I don't hate. I challenge myself going down memory lane when you're not accepted because you don't have the coolest clothes. You're not accepted because you don't have the coolest haircut. You're not accepted because you don't drive a car. You're not accepted. Think about all the times in your life that you might not have been accepted. And you're still here. And you're still walking around with a smile on your face. Because what did you learn? That I am true to myself and I'm accepting of myself. Because that's what I do now. And that's what, when I'm working with clients, even when I'm working now in these corporations and you see these individuals that, wow, I never knew that they saw me like that I was accepted. You are accepted. And not everybody, if I just think about, if you were friends with everybody, think how many times you would change who you are to be accepted. Why not be with the people that are accepting? Because those are who you are. Think about that. We strive sometimes to be around people to accept us because we see them as greater than or better than. We compare ourselves to them. But what if you just accepted who you are and attracted those people? Your life will be so much easier than to put on the facades. And how many people have you in your life not accepted because they just didn't fit your mold? And that's okay. That is okay. And think about that when you don't feel accepted. How many times have you walked around and not accepted? So, oh my goodness, here I am talking about accepting. We got 2 more topics to go through. So we are going to take our first break here on Inspired Choices Network. I am Sandee Byrd. This is Emotional Elevator, and we are talking about acceptance, approval, and avoidance tonight, the 3 A's. So thank you for joining me tonight.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. So, like I said, tonight I am gifting 1 hour coaching session with me because accepting, we need to be more accepting of ourselves, accept who we are, what we are, how we are, everything about us. And that is the biggest part of us, is accepting us first. Because a lot of times we look on the outside for acceptance. And this was a big topic for me, especially after doing imposter syndrome, yeah, I said that right. And being with a client, and I said, so what does that look like that I'm accepted? Was the answer. Well, what does it mean to be accepted? And I'm not going to go into that whole, because this could be like a half an hour dialogue between two of us. And it really dawned on me about acceptance and how much we put on acceptance. But now is the second A. Of course, I am Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator. I don't think I reintroduced myself. And like I said, you can reach out to me at Sandee@emotionalelevator.com, Sandee Byrd, or reach out to me at Sandee Byrd, as the two E's with a BYRD coach at gmail.com. If you want to just reach out, if you want a gifted session, I'd love to do that for you. But now the next word is approval. Approval is the belief that something is good or acceptable, agree to or accept. Giving official consent for something to happen is approval. Approval is a big topic too. We think people have to approve of us to do things. So when COVID hit, oh gosh, been a while now. Can't even remember, 4 years ago, whatever. I was working out in the real world, and everything was all about approval. I need everyone's approval. And even growing up, I felt I needed everyone's approval. And with my kids, I felt like I needed their approval. Marrying my second husband, I wanted his kids' approval. I wanted his mom's approval. I wanted my mom's approval. I wish my dad was here and his dad was here to give us their approval. We ask for so much approval in life because we're so hard to approve of ourselves. Like, think about that. Do you ever just look in the mirror and say, I approve of you? I approve. Do you? Well, I want you to start doing that. Sorry. Always, like I say, there's burpees after when I'm doing my show. But approval. So as I was leading into with when COVID hit, and I decided before my stepson's wedding, I was just tired. I could get into the salon and I was like, you know what? I need something fun. I need something fun. She said, well, what makes you think of fun? Purple. You want to dye your hair purple? I have gray hair. If you don't watch me, you listen to me. I have gray hair, and I always hear I have the best color gray hair. And if my hair grew out looking like yours, I would grow my hair out. So I did. I went with a very deep purple. I colored my whole head purple. I walked in the house and I got the, oh my God, what did you do? I left the salon feeling, ooh, high on life. Oh my God, I just dyed my hair. Never done that before. I dyed it dark, I dyed it light, shaped it. Never had I dyed it purple. And then I just saw disapproval. And the purple went to blah. And I was like, no, you're not going to steal my thunder in this moment. I understand, yes, you're my husband. And right away, I had taken pictures and I sent it to my daughter. She was like, oh my God, Mom, that's so exciting. Like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, thank you. And then I realized as I'm sending pictures and I'm putting it out there, I was trying to get more approval than disapproval, or I was trying to see, did people approve of it or disapprove of it? And I realized, like my husband said, remember, in a week, my son's getting married. And there are people there that are not going to approve of your hair. I don't care. If I am asked to sit in the back row instead of on the front row, I'm okay with that. Nobody approved of me working 70 hours a week, being out in the firing lines of COVID. Didn't hear everyone saying, oh, I disapprove of you doing that. So I did something fun and I approved of it. And it was a changing point for me because I did something that it was like some days, wow, that's great. You dyed your hair purple. That's much. So, and then I had days of, why would you do that? You have the most beautiful gray hair. Now it's going to probably grow back funny. So I got the approval and disapproval, and I realized I don't need anybody's approval to do what I want to do. So as you see, if you watch, I did have my hair blue. Now it's got the purple highlights in it again. But it's that. And when people come around me and I listen to this, I had a woman came up to me one day, I don't remember where, in the grocery store, whatever. We'll go with that. And said, oh, I'd love to do that, but my kids won't approve of it. She was older than me. You won't do that because your kids won't approve of it? I didn't realize your kids. I didn't really know this woman. I said, I didn't realize you took that much value in what your kids think. Well, I want my kids to approve of me. Do you approve of everything your kids do? So we had almost a coaching conversation, and I wish I would have had one of my business cards at the time because I probably would have handed it to her. Because this was not right when I started coaching, COVID, I started coaching, and this was only a couple years ago when she came up to me and said this. I wish I would have had my business card. Now I carry them around with me. I usually don't carry much around with me, but now I make sure I have something, whether it's on my phone, a business card or whatever, because I'm like, really? Like you need your kids' approval to color your hair? How many times have you not approved of something your kids, have you approved of every relationship your kids have been in? Like, this is what approval is. Like, making sure that you're giving the official consent for something to happen. But we rely on other people to give us that consent. Why do we rely on people to give us the consent to do things for ourselves? Approval. That is what approval is. Like, I understand in the business world, you go into your boss or whatever, and you say, or if you are the boss, you go to and I hate this word, I really do. And someone said it today, and I was like, please don't ever say that in my presence, because they said subordinate. And I was like, what makes them subordinate? And that was a whole nother coaching conversation. But if you are the boss, the owner, or whatever, and you're going down and asking for people's approval, well, what do you think of this? that means you're not believing in yourself wholeheartedly. And that's another coaching conversation with people that I have is, why are you seeking approval from other people? And that's part of imposter syndrome, which I talked about last week, is when we seek approval from other people because we don't approve of ourselves. And why don't we approve of ourselves? We should be the ones consenting, because approve, giving official consent for something to happen. We should be the ones consenting of ourselves, approving. But what do? We go out there. We need a trophy to prove that we are the best runner. We need a trophy to prove that we can kick a football. We need all this approval we give nowadays to approve. Why don't we just approve ourselves? Because when we ask for, and I've talked about this on a lot of my shows as well, is asking for approval and validating. When we have to seek validation from other people, that's because we don't approve of our own selves. And I understand some things in life we want someone just to prove, but we should be able to approve of ourselves. I do understand in the working world that you have to pitch something and you want them to approve of it. I get that. It's not what I'm saying. But what I mean is, like, when you want to do something for yourself, but I don't know if my husband's going to approve. I don't know if my wife's going to approve. I don't know if my kids are going to approve. I don't know if my mom's going to approve. If we continued to live our lives seeking approval from everybody to do everything, we're not living life. First, we need acceptance, then we need approval. When are we going to just say, you know what, I'm going to do that? I do that a lot now in my life, and I coach people on just starting to make those first steps. There's some times where I'm like, oh gosh, it's my husband. What is he going to think about this? What is my husband going to think if all of a sudden now I'm going to fly across the world and I want to go for 2 weeks instead of 1 week? Let me talk to him about it. But if I'm doing it for something good, I'm not looking for approval from him. I'm just looking for him to say, you know what, I'm proud of you. And that is also a sign of approval, because I'm asking for that justification or that approval. So that's what acceptance and approval is. And how many of us want approval all the time? And yes, it's part of our DNA. It's part of who we are. It's, oh, I can't get that president job or that big CEO job unless I have the approval of everybody. I'm not going to become an attorney in the law firm unless I have all those attorneys approve of me. But don't you think your backing, don't you think your degrees, don't you think all of that is approval and justification to yourself? Because when we're always asking for approval from other people, we're actually asking for self-justification. Think about that. We're also asking to validate us. Acceptance is validation and worthy, and so is approval. We're seeking validation. We're seeking justification. More so justification on, yeah, should we do that? Should we not do that? Because here's the thing, if we always go around and approve of everything we're doing and it turns out wrong, who do we have to blame but ourselves? And that's the hardest thing, is for us to say, you know what? I I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. Instead, what do? We go, so what do you think if I go and jump out of an airplane without a chute on? I don't think that'd be a good idea, Cindy. I think you should wear a suit, a chute, a suit. Yeah, I'll wear a suit and jump out of a plane without a chute. No, I think you should wear a chute. I don't think so. Maybe I'll just jump because I believe in God and he's gonna, he's gonna save me. I think you should still put a chute on. what are we doing? We're asking for, in a sense, approval for that justification. But if I just decide to jump out of an airplane without the chute on, that's on me. And we don't know what the outcome. I could land in water and be fine. We don't know. But I'm not going to try it. Don't even think. I'm not trying it. I'm still not going to jump out of an airplane. Just something I don't accept and I don't approve of. For me, doesn't mean anyone else around me. If anyone around me wants to do it, that's fine. My kids want to do it. If my husband wants to do it, that is fine. I'll approve it for them, but they don't even have to ask for my approval because that's their choice, their decision. Anyway, it is time for another break. We have been talking so far about acceptance and approval. Now the next one is avoidance. So we will talk about avoidance when we get back. And thank you for listening to me tonight on Inspired Choices Network on Emotional Elevator. And I am the host, Sandee Byrd. So let's go to our break.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. Of course, I am Sandee Byrd, and you are listening to me on Inspired Choices Network. The name of my podcast is Emotional Elevator, and I like to elevate emotions by talking about deep conversations and how to dive into those conversations. And like I said, these are the 3 A's. We've gone over acceptance, approval, and now it's avoidance. But like we said previously, acceptance is the action or process of being received as adequate or suitable. Consenting to receive or undertake something offered is acceptance. And yes, I'm still reading the definitions. Approval, the belief that something is good or acceptable, agree to or accept. Now, avoid, to keep away from. Avoidance, the action of keeping away from or not doing something. So a lot of times when we are not being accepted or approved, we just avoid. What harm is avoiding? Yeah, I'm asking you a question. What harm is it to avoid, to practice avoidance? Because then what we're doing is basically agreeing that that was unacceptable or unapproved. Because a lot of times when we feel unaccepted or we're not getting the approval, we just avoid. We avoid it. Why? And that's another big topic. That's why all these kind of tie in, because coaching people, and like I've said, I recently went into a corporation with doing my laughter yoga leader, and now tapping into the Lego series play. That is the biggest thing that I'm finding is the avoidance, the action of keeping away or not doing something. A lot of people are just avoiding. Well, if I avoid to do that, then nothing bad's going to happen. Well, if I am not accepted or approved as a great coach or yoga laughter leader, I'll just avoid doing it. What good is that doing? But that's implanting more of what I talked about last week, that imposter syndrome, that I'm not good enough, I'm not validated. And that's a lot of what avoidance is just not stepping into who we are, not stepping into what we want because we feel like we're not getting that approval. We're not getting that acceptance. So we just avoid. So how does that feel? How does that feel? What does that look like to avoid? Think about all the things in your life that you avoided. Think about that. Making amends with somebody because you don't want to admit that you made a mistake. So you just avoid. Because I can tell you in my life, that's the biggest thing is that I don't want to avoid. I am the person and maybe I should have included annoying. I can be annoying because I am that person. If you avoid me, I become annoying because I've already accepted you and I've already approved of you. But if you want to avoid me for some reason, I want to know why. I want us to talk that out. Why? Or if you did something wrong, me is all about saying, and I do it myself, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I am so sorry. Really shouldn't have done that. And if I know your apology language, I know how to reciprocate for you. I can tell you mine is just, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And then you're not avoiding. How many times, think about avoiding. How many times have you not done something because you are afraid to hurt somebody else's feelings because then you might not be accepted? How many times have you just avoided because you're unsure? Just think of what that outcome might have been. This is a big thing that we do. We avoid. Ooh, I don't like what they're going to be talking about, so I'm just not going to go. That's avoidance because you don't see what you have to say or your input is valued because you're not feeling accepted or approved in yourself. So think about this. If I, okay, what I'll put myself out here on the line because I'm willing to do that. That's what makes me an authentic coach here. 3 years ago, has it been 3 years? Maybe 2 years ago, I did have a formal podcast. I made a couple of mistakes. So I avoided for a while. And then I chose to come over here on Inspired Choices Network and give it another try. And I have people that have reached out. I've put a comment on social media that have said talking about what you talk about speaks to me. When I had the conversation, and the one I really put out there was a conversation from actual client who just met me from Laughter Yoga. And because of my conversation about cold mother syndrome, it resonated to her and it really moved her. But here's the thing, because it's something I did maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I know for sure, three maybe, I avoided speaking because I did one thing wrong. And you know what? I really didn't. I did something that other people didn't approve of and didn't like what I had to say. But I approved of it, but they didn't. So what did I do? Instead of saying, you know what? I understand your point of view. What did I do? I allowed them. I allowed them to allow me to avoid. So what did I do? That's fine. I just reached out and said, I'm pulling my podcast. Because somebody, okay, it was a couple people, didn't approve of what I said. But now looking back at it, I had more people approving of what I said, but I allowed a couple of people, okay, a few people that I knew didn't approve of what I said, didn't accept what I said. So what did I do? I avoided and I pulled it. I didn't consider at all the handful, if not more, that did approve of what I said and did accept what I said and said, oh my gosh, you just challenged people to think differently. And then what's so ironic about that whole conversation is I was at a platform here and I saw them sitting in the audience, and what I said, somebody else on the stage was saying. And they're, hey, good, you tell him, woman. And I'm like, what? So that's when things changed for me, because I said something they did not approve of or accept, and I started to avoid, but then I'm sitting watching them approve of something someone else said, exactly what I said, but they were on the stage and they actually are a author and getting to be almost a celebrity. And just because the context was different than how I said it. So that's what avoidance is. What do? We just go and we start hibernating and we pull in. But why? Why? Why don't we take our own value and put it out there? Because when we avoid, we're basically saying we don't approve of our own selves. We don't accept our own selves. And we should just love ourselves. I always tell my clients all the time, and in Laughter Yoga, and even after one of my Lego series plays and in a corporation, I was like, everybody, I want everybody to stop and give yourself a hug. So right now, stop, give yourself a hug. Because you know what? The only person that's ever going to approve you completely is you. The only person that's ever going to accept you is you. Completely. Doesn't mean, I don't mean other people aren't going to approve of you or accept you. Please don't take that literally. What I mean is, you're the one person that is going to accept everything about you. Love yourself. Approve of every part of who you are. Because you are you. And that's what makes you different than me. And that's what makes me different than you. And don't avoid anything. Go in as loud as you can. I go into now these gatherings I go into, and sometimes I go in being me, being who I'm meant to be. and letting go of, wow, if they don't approve of me, then I know I'm not going back to that group. They're not meant for me. Because the group that I went to on Monday, wow, they were all over me. They approved. So think about that. Oh my goodness, we need to take a break because my show is almost over. But during the break, give yourself a big hug. Smile within yourself because I approve of you. I accept you. I will never avoid you. I will be annoying to you. And like I said, I am gifting a free coaching session with me because I feel there are so many people out there that just want that person to say, you know what? It's okay. It is okay. So we are going to go to a break because I only got like 2 minutes left on this show. So let's go to a break. And you're listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
We only have like a minute and a half left. So next week, stay tuned because we're going to do Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. And if you are listening to me this week, bring that mirror because we are going to talk to ourselves and just invite ourselves to spend that moment to look at ourselves. And how many people have done that challenge? Mirror, mirror on the wall. Take those moments to look at yourself. But tonight was all about acceptance, approval, and avoidance, and how if we're not accepted sometimes in life or approved, we avoid. Why? Because accept yourself, approve of yourself, make those changes, stop avoiding it, because life is short. Some people say it's long, but life is short. So approve of yourself, accept yourself, and stop avoiding. And thank you. I'm so blessed to be here on Inspired Choices Network. And like I said, I gifted one coaching call with me, 1 hour coaching call for listening to this show. So reach out to me. And you can reach out to me, like I said, for that gifted at Sandee with 2 E's, Byrd, B-Y-R-D, coach@gmail.com. And I look forward to talking to you about letting go of accepting and approval from others and avoiding what you really want to do. So thank you again. You have joined me tonight on Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network. I am Sandee Byrd. And remember, always, always, always elevate your emotions through living, loving, and laughing.
Thank you for listening to the Emotional Elevator Show. Sandee returns Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, start elevating your emotions and stop riding the emotional elevator that is stopping you from living the life you deserve.